Hi everyone, welcome to this Pearson English Assessment Summer Session. Just wait for a few more moments for everybody to arrive and then we'll get started. See attendees from Ecuador, Kazakhstan, hello, Cambodia, Morocco, all over. So yeah, I guess we'll begin. So hello everyone, welcome to this next in the series of Pearson English Assessment Summer Sessions. Every Tuesday this summer, we've been exploring different aspects of English assessment and how we at Pearson English approach the question of how assessment can be used to support and drive success at each stage of the journey to English proficiency. In today's webinar, we'll be getting to know our brand new and exciting level and benchmark tests, and we'll be hearing from Darren Nicholls. Darren has worked in education for over 13 years. He's been with Pearson for 2 years, and he's the product manager for the level and benchmark tests, as well as for the Versant suite of assessments. Just a little bit of quick housekeeping before we get started. We'll be having a short Q&A session towards the end of the webinar, so please feel free to submit your questions into the question box at any time during the talk. This webinar is also being recorded and we'll make the recording available shortly afterwards on our website in case you'd like to share it with colleagues or watch it again. And you'll also receive a certificate of attendance via email after the session. So now I'm happy to pass it over to Darren.
Thank you, Sophia. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's great to see from that introduction from Sophia that we've got so many people across the globe joining in, and I think even more with everything that's going on in the world at the moment. Thank you for taking the time today to listen into this session. One apology to start off with. I'm afraid we've had a few technical difficulties, so my camera isn't working. But actually, I've always been told I've got a face for radio, so that's probably a good thing for you that you don't get to see me. So let's get into our session. As Sophia said, we are looking at 2 new products today. My name is Darren Nicholls. I am the product manager within Pearson English Assessment, and I manage a portfolio of digital, so computer-based proficiency assessments. Okay, today specifically we are getting to know level and benchmark. As Sophia mentioned, level and benchmark are brand new, only launched a number of weeks ago, and has already been very well received within the market. So we've had some great feedback from these products so far, and hopefully as we go through this session, you'll be able to see why they've been so well received. So what are we going to cover in this presentation? So we're going to give you an overview of Pearson English as a whole, kind of what we do and how we do it, and the solutions that we offer to you in the market. We're going to break down the 2 separate products here, level and benchmark, because they are 2 separate tests. And we're going to go into again, another new development. That's our Test Hub administration platform, and that's really important to the success of these products, the administration side of things. And again, hopefully, as we go through these slides, that will become more evident. So, Pearson English. Pearson is the world's learning company. We have staff in over 70 countries with 22,500 employees. Not just books, not just courseware, but we provide content, assessment, and digital services to everyone from learners, government bodies, employers, and educational institutions across the globe. Our focus is making sure that we give learners what they need to be able to enhance their prospects, to be able to succeed in the world of work, really focusing on employability. But as well as obviously looking at the learners, making sure that our teachers, that our institutions, that employers also have the tools that they need to be able to use the products well and make better decisions. So what are we offering here? So we've got a complete teaching, learning, measurement, and assessment solution within Pearson English. So we really kind of pushed and promote the learning of English language, and we do that with a number of ways. And that's making sure that our infrastructure is connected, and there's common themes throughout every single one of our products. So our work is dedicated to English language learners and all those that have their interests at heart, and that could be teachers, that can be parents. Obviously, when we talk about English language learning, we're not just talking about adults, we're talking about school children, young learners, and obviously parents play a big part of that process. Our products and services, so again, it's not just the products, but everything that sits around it as an ecosystem are backed by research, expertise, subject matter experts that are calling upon decades of experience to be able to tailor the products for exactly what the market needs. And as I mentioned, this is all about integration. It's making sure that Pearson products work seamlessly from product to product. So we make sure that our courseware and our assessments are all integrated. They're all mapped to a common scale. In this instance, it's the global scale of English, and we can work to ensure that every individual's needs are met at each stage of a lifelong learning journey. And lifelong learning is such an important concept within Pearson, and that's where our Test Hub administration platform really comes to life. And hopefully, we'll get to demonstrate that a little bit later as we go through this demonstration. So the global scale of English, or the GSE, what is it? Now, it's the first truly global English language standard. It's extending the CFR, the Common European Framework of Reference, and that's basically what it's doing, is breaking down those CFR bands into a much more granular level. So it's not replacing the CFR, it is breaking it down into a more granular level, which allows teachers, administrators, even learners themselves to be able to look at their assessment outcomes and really understand what they need to do from a remediation point of view, but also to see and demonstrate progress. Now, the GSE is backed by research that involves over 6,000 teachers from 50 countries worldwide, and it's now widely used by educators worldwide. And we're extending that by making sure that the GSE is also understood by other stakeholders. And as we mentioned on the previous slide, that includes governments and that includes employers. And that's really helping raise the standards in the teaching and the learning of English. With the GSE comes the GSE learning objectives, and they provide invaluable feedback for teachers and learners. And basically what they do is allow learners to understand what they can do at a particular stage of their proficiency, and really help them then focus on what they should then focus on for their remediation. So what you can do and what you should do in order to see progress. With that, we have our Pearson English courseware, which is developed using the GSE learning objectives. So again, it's that integrated ecosystem where we don't create products in isolation. All of these aspects, the courseware, the assessment, the GSE, and the learning objectives, all come together throughout the product development process. Which obviously, when you're looking at courseware, it makes sure that every activity that is being positioned within that is focused on making progress. Really not keen on having learners waste time. It's really about making sure that they can become more proficient in their English language. And then the piece that we're looking at today is the assessment. And what we try to do with our assessment, what we do with our assessment, is test authentic language skills. So it's not about memory learning. It's not about how someone crams for an exam. It's about authentic language skills. It's about proficiency. And again, these tests are developed in alignment with the GSE and the Pearson ecosystem, but they also work alongside our courseware. I think that's important. Our assessments are also built agnostically, so it doesn't need to be delivered with courseware, but it definitely helps so that relationship between Pearson products becomes invaluable. So what is the science and the expertise that sits behind it? And I think the quote on the right-hand side of this screen really tells a story. We talk a lot about artificial intelligence, and I think there's a perception that that you lose the human touch with artificial intelligence, and people focus on the artificial part of it. But this quote is absolutely spot on, where there's nothing artificial about it. It's made by humans, it's intended to behave like humans, and ultimately it impacts us and our society. So it is a human, definitely a human interaction, as opposed to it being artificial. And within English language, what we do is we've developed those AI systems that help us automate the assessment by combining speech recognition and exam grading technology with years and years of experience of delivering those technologies. Couple that together with our exam markers around the world, we've been able to develop patented software that measures language ability. And without a doubt, it's definitely market leading. And it shows by the people that are using these tests and using this software. It's trusted by governments, major corporations from around the world, and educational institutions. And I think the main reason why it is trusted by these customers, by these groups, is the focus on non-biased accuracy, the speed in which you can deliver the test and get your results back, as there's no human markers involved, and the flexibility in delivery. These tests can be taken anywhere, anytime, and that's invaluable. So what is the assessment journey within Pearson English? Now, we kind of develop our assessments using 4 key pillars, really. Place, and they are very self-explanatory. Place is there to place students, help them get off to a flying start by making sure they're in the right place for their first day of school, of university, whether it's higher education, further education, making sure that they're in the right place on day one. So they're streaming learners into the correct class to make sure that they are on a level playing field. Then once they've done that, we can then use our benchmarking assessments to monitor learning progress, or if it's a one-off test, to show proficiency at a particular time, and that helps them prepare going into the next term a little bit better prepared, because they know where they need to focus. Or if they're working towards another exam, then obviously they can use that feedback to be able to focus their revision. And then obviously, if they are then taking another test, they can use one of our certify assessments. And these are here regulated assessments to be able to prove a learner's English skills. And that might be to potential employers, to schools, via regulated and recognized certification. Then once you have that, there is the ability to then move up to our more higher stakes tests, which are focused on security and verifying that an individual is who they are and that they have the required language ability for purposes of immigration or to study abroad. So how does that fit into our portfolio? So you can see here a very basic matrix of how these pillars work with our products, and we then split them down by their target audience. So you can see at the top row there, we have our young learner assessments, where we have our English benchmark young learners, and we have our PT young learner certificate. For adults age 14 plus, we have our level and benchmark tests, which we are going to be talking about today. And with our naming, as you can see here, it does exactly what it's designed to do. A level test is there to level students, to place them into the correct class, and benchmark is to give that line in the sand. This is my proficiency as a snapshot as I am now, and this is what I can use to demonstrate progress. For certify, we have our Pearson English International Certificate, formerly PT General. And on our verify, on the right-hand side, we have our PT Academic. Okay, and then for business, we'll have our Versant suite of products that pretty much straddle the placing and the progress monitoring side of things. But we're here today to talk about level and benchmark. So what are level and benchmark? Now, level and benchmark are based on existing Pearson assessment products, placement and progress. But this development and the creation of level and benchmark is very much a reaction to feedback that we've got from markets, from teachers, from learners, from administrators, from our geographies, as to what would make a better assessment in their particular markets. So these tests are computer-based English language assessments. They work autonomously, but as we've already mentioned, being part of that ecosystem, they work better together. And again, as part of that feedback is we have a single test taker record, and this is harking back to the concept of lifelong learning. So having a single test taker record as individuals work through these tests that you can see on your screen now is integral to ensure that they have the full audit history of their test taking experience with Pearson. And in order to do that, in order to create that single test taker record, we have to create a single administration platform. And that's been something we've been looking at for a long time. And our products used to have different admin platforms depending on who the product was designed to serve, or some of the complexities. But now we have a single admin platform. So at the moment, again, if I go back to my previous slide, we have our test hub platform, which now serves the level test and the benchmark test. Later on, early next year, it will have the Pearson English International Certificate alongside the readiness test for that, and also our English Benchmark Young Learner test. So we're bringing these proficiency tests that are aimed at educational institutions into a single administration platform. And again, that's a reaction to market feedback. So let's get into the tests themselves. So we have level, and actually level is not a single test. Level is two separate tests. We'll get onto that in a second. But what we've done with level is we've kind of scaled it back from what it was as placement to ensure it meets the market needs. It needs to be easy to use. It needs to be fast in regards to how quick you assign the test, how quickly someone can get the test, to ensure that the results are quality based on the length of that test, and then getting the results back quickly to be able to make very quick, easy streaming decisions. Now, of course, as part of that being fast and easy to use, our customers always want these tests to be cost effective, and it is backed by our AI scoring engines. So it's designed to place people into the right class for the level that they are, and to get lessons off to a flying start. No, let's switch people around 2-3 weeks into a class because they've been streamed incorrectly. It's about those quick, simple decisions to get people into the right class. And we can make those decisions in just 20 to 30 minutes. And that's because we have two versions of this test. So here you can see all of the criteria that we have with this test. We have two versions. We have a level test that is 3 skills only. And the 3 skills that we look at there is reading, writing, and listening. So there's no speaking in that test, and that test is 20 minutes long. The 4 skills test, which includes speaking, is an additional 10 minutes. So even if you're taking the 4 skills test, you're still getting very good results and very quick results in a short space of time. Now, the test is designed to place people that are 14 plus. It covers all levels of the CFR, and from a GSE perspective, that's 10 to 90. It's a single test. So although we've said we've got 2 separate tests, they are single tests on their own that cover that full range, and they are adaptive. The test can be taken anytime, anywhere. It can be taken via a computer, via a browser, which means that you need to have an active internet connection while taking the test. It can be taken at home or in the classroom. And I think that there needs to be some caveat around that, that obviously you need to ensure that the learner has the correct hardware and software to be able to take that test at home. And also there needs to be an element of trust with that test taker, that they're not going to be cheating or gaming the system. But I think looking at where we are currently globally, I think that there is going to be more of a demand for remote testing and people testing at home, because either travel is not safe, not recommended, or even the test taker's own safety, that they're more comfortable taking these assessments in a familiar location. So this is definitely something that we'll be seeing more of in the future. The admin platform is our test hub platform, our Pearson English assessment portal. The systems are Pearson English AI technology, which returns results usually within minutes. And those results, as we'll see with our score reports later on, are presented as CFR half bands. So it will be a A1, A2, B1, B1 plus, and we'll see that when we get into our score reports. We also show the GSE range that corresponds to that CFR band. We don't give an exact score because, again, this is for placing people. This is about a quick decision as to roughly where their proficiency is so that you can stream them into the right class. And the additional information that we put within that report would be some high-level performance summary for each of the skills. So although we're not giving a granular score, we can provide some can-do statements broken down on a skill-by-skill basis. So as we said, we deliver these scores within minutes. It's cost effective. The Test Hub platform means that the test is really simple to onboard, and we'll look at that in a little bit. The flexible format means that, as I said, it can be at home or class, and it can be administered to any number of students at any level. Our technology, our servers behind the scenes can ramp up and ramp down as needed, so you can have as many people taking this test at a single point. As I said, the adaptive test allows for a continual adjustment throughout the test and difficulty, so it really allows us to get an accurate representation of those student scores in a very short space of time. And as we mentioned on a previous slide, it's about authentic language, and we test that using integrated skills. And again, when we look a little bit later on at some of our item types, you'll be able to see how those integrated skills work. There's a broad range of question types to make sure that we can test all these skills, but also to make sure that test takers remain engaged. We provide that half band, as we mentioned, and we give that information in regards to that kind of high-level skills profile that test takers or administrators can then take going into those early days of learning to start to build a program of learning that's bespoke to that individual. And this works together seamlessly with Benchmark, and I want to touch on this a little bit later on when we start talking with Benchmark, but it really does work hand in hand with Benchmark. Again, although this works autonomously, it works on its own. As schools, if you wanted to place students using level and then use Benchmark as your progress monitor, your proficiency test, then they work perfectly hand in hand. So what we do at the beginning of each test is give test takers an introduction to the test. And it's very important here that they're given clear and technical instructions to how they should prepare for the interaction that they're going to be having with the test itself. And that's really important. So you can see here, not only are we telling them or setting the expectations in regards to how many sections there is, how long this is going to take, what skills are covered, but very much around how they should approach this, what kind of technology they should be using. You can see here that we're saying that you're going to need a headset and a microphone. Now, it's very important that test takers have the right hardware. So from a technology perspective, they have everything they need to be able to take the test effectively. But then there's also the other part. So if you are entrusting learners to take tests from home, then they need to also be briefed on how to respect the environment around them in regards to where they're taking the test. So in a quiet room with no distractions, closed windows, making sure that there's no interruptions is incredibly important. And then there's the behavioral aspects to it as well, is making sure that people don't shout, that they speak in a very natural way. And I think that's more important when we get into the speaking side of things. Because as we said, this is about authentic language. So we're going to be looking for people that speak in a natural, conversational manner. So the first section of the test, which looks at reading, listening, and writing, has these integrated test types. And as we said, these different test items are designed to keep people interested, making sure that it's not the same item type over and over and over again. But also, as they are integrated items, it's about making sure that we're testing multiple skills. So for example, if you look at the right-hand side of your screen here, you can see a listen to the recording and click on the words, and that's very much a listening piece. But then you may have ones where you are reading and writing, you are listening and writing. So they're testing multiple skills at the same time. In section 2, we look at speaking and listening. So it's not just speaking, but speaking and listening. And again, you can see that here where you will have an option where you'll listen to the recording and then you'll be asked to repeat a sentence. So that again, that's an integrated item type that is looking at 2 skills at once. And you can see here on the left-hand side of the screen, we provide some tips there to make sure that again, technology, environment and behavior is the right is conducive to good testing. So asking them to speak in a normal speed as they would do during a conversation, speak like you were talking to someone on the phone, so no need to over enunciate or speak too slowly, and speak at a normal volume, so don't whisper or don't shout. It's all about having that conversational tone. So what do you get once you've taken your test? Every person who takes a test on level and benchmark will be getting a score report. Now, whether or not the actual test taker sees that score report is very much the decision of the institution that has purchased that. There are options within our platform to allow test takers to see that, but that's very much in your control. But if you just wanted to keep those internally for your decision making or for lesson planning, then that's absolutely fine. You hold the power in that sense. What we give with this, with our report for level, is a summary of the student's performance. So you see there, we give an overview of their current capabilities. You can see at the top here, and we then give their overall score. So you can see that based on this test, this individual here scored a B1, and on the GSE that equates to a 43 to a 50. So really quickly you can see an overview of their proficiency. Now, if we look a little bit further down, what you can also see is where does that score relate in regards to the broader CEFR and GSE. So you can see that they're pretty much kind of in the middle here, which is great. And I think this really comes into place. So this is more of a kind of you are here. So it gives an individual an idea to see kind of where they've come from and what's ahead of them. This graphic comes more and more into play when we start looking at our group reports. So then what do we have broken down per skill? So in relation to the overall score, so this score here, B1, we have their performance on a skill by skill level. So what we're saying here, if you can look here from a listening point of view, they are performing at a B1 level. Reading, they are above a B1 level. Speaking, they are below a B1 level. And likewise with writing, they are at a B1 level. So what you see here in regards to at level and above level, below level is in relation to their overall score, okay? Also here, as we've mentioned, we provide an overview of the performance of each language skill. So this is really looking at the can-do statements. So you can see here, the student can follow the main points of short talks on familiar topics or extended discussion around them if delivered in standard speech. So really kind of gives them an overview of what they can do. In regards to group score reports, and again, see this a lot when you're looking at mass streaming of students into a university or an institution where you'll have a lot of people taking these level tests and then being able to make decisions on how you then split these test takers into classes, into groups that they can then move into and spend their academic year in. So we've designed this report to be really easy for test takers to be, administrators to be able to look at, determine where their splits are, and then make decisions easily as to how they then group those students together for the rest of their learning. So you can see here, we have like a density heat map that we have at the top of the screen for this particular group. You'll have the name of the group. So for here, you can say that this would be an intake. So this could be a 2021 intake. You will then see how many test takers were in that group, and then their overall kind of average score here. So it says that on average, most people are scoring in the B1, but then you can see from the heat map where people are scoring. So you can see there's a lot of people scoring in a B1 plus, a lot of people at an A2, not so much at the B2, and none at the C1, C2 level. So you're getting a real overview of where your overall group proficiency is. Then further down on the report, that's broken down even further. So you have a percentage amount of test takers within that group. So 38% of our 30 students were scoring in that B1 plus range. Then the aim there is that they can quickly compare those numbers of students at each level. They can then click through to see the test data for each of those students at that level. So you'll be able to see an overview of all of their scores and how they've performed on a skill by skill level. So again, what we had here, the above level, at level, below level, you'll be able to see broken down for that entire group. And then that also allows you to select those students and stream them into their groups or their classes for the remainder of the year. So benchmark. So benchmark, we definitely see as the perfect companion to any English teaching program. Again, we've said that it works perfectly with Pearson courseware, but also works alongside any courseware that you may be using within your class, be it from another organization, or it could be courseware that's been developed in-house. So it works with any course as well as it would do if it's coupled together with those Pearson courses. But there is an added benefit to Pearson courses, and we'll look at that in a second. But the main thing about this, it's about a line in the sand, understanding where someone's proficiency is in that particular snapshot in time, but also a tests that are designed to measure progress. And we do that by giving an overview of what they can do, and also giving recommendations on what they should be doing next to be able to then put that into a plan of action, focus for their remediation, and then when they next take a test, you should be able to demonstrate progress. Again, similar with our other with level, it's accurate, it's backed by our artificial intelligence in regards to scoring. So it is a proficiency test. It gives you that snapshot, but also can be used multiple times over a period of time to demonstrate progress. Again, it's for ages 14 plus, and it covers, as a product suite, it covers all levels, again within the CFR, but there are actually 4 test levels. So essentially, it's 4 different tests available within English Benchmark, and they cover the CFR bands. The first test covers the full A, so A1, A2. We have a B1 test, which covers B1, B1 plus. We have a B2 test, which covers B2, B2 plus, and then we have a C test, which covers the full range of C tests, C ranges. It's around a 45-minute test, so it fits really nicely into class sessions. So without having to take 2 separate side-by-side sessions, it fits nicely into a single session. And again, with this same as level, it can be taken anytime, anywhere. So online, at the home, or in the classroom. And again, looking at the current situation, more and more institutions are looking at how they interact with students on an ongoing basis online. So having them taking regular tests throughout an academic year at home to be able to check their understanding and their learning in a standardized way is going to be incredibly powerful for you as teachers, or for the institution being able to demonstrate value to teachers, to parents. Having them be able to take these tests over a regular period of time from home really provides some powerful insight into how these online learning programs might be progressing. So can be in the classroom, but also can be taken online. And again, it's utilizing that technology. So it's marked by our technology, and its results returned within minutes. We provide with this a granular GSE score, so you'll actually get a number, which is your GSE score between 10 and 90, and we'll also give you that CFR band that that score sits within. We provide detailed performance summaries, we provide recommendations, and again, kind of picking up on the point I made on the previous slide in regards to it being agnostic to programs, but it does work better with courseware. We have direct mapping into Pearson English courseware. So if you are using Pearson courseware, this becomes incredibly valuable for you to be able to see exactly which activities in which books you should be looking at for your students. So as I said, fast, efficient, easy to use, but again, it's really about making sure that if tests are being taken remotely, that the test takers need to have a suitable computer to be able to take the test. They have the right headset. It's really important, especially when we're testing speaking, to make sure that they have a microphone to be able to pick up their voice clearly, and obviously an internet connection, as these tests are online tests. The tests themselves provide rich insights and direction across all 4 language skills. So again, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And they provide kind of individual data, so clear data for individuals. If you're looking at individual remediation, homework setting, whatever it might be, you've got clear, detailed data. But also, if you're looking at the class as a whole, you can take a step back and see that detailed data for the class as well, based on an overall average of that class. So whether you're looking at managing individuals on a case-by-case basis, or you're looking at how you should set courseware for or homework for the entire class, the results and the reports that are provided within Test Hub allow you to do that. As I said, the results themselves include tailored guidance for students and teachers. Again, the student side of things only if the institution wants those students to get those reports. So they can be released to the students, or they could be physically passed to the students by the teachers, but that is a decision that is made in the institution. And again, these tests are standardized, they are accurate, and they are reliable. And standardization obviously is incredibly important. If you are a chain of schools, knowing that every school within that chain is taking the same test, and therefore you could, no pun intended, benchmark schools against each other by using these results, it becomes a very powerful tool for those that are sitting at the decision-making side of things within that particular chain. So whether or not you're a small institution or you're a chain of schools, the level of information that you can get out of these products is incredibly useful. So let's take a look at the tests here. So section 1 is looking at reading, grammar, and vocabulary, and we're looking at these integrated item types. So you can see here some of the items you can see. The item on the right-hand side, you can read the text, and then they're asking you to select an image underneath that, which will best match what you have read within that box. So really looking at kind of reading skills there. And again, as I said, with Level, they are very much designed to keep people interested, as well as obviously testing the required skills. So section 2 is again looking at listening and speaking. And again, the instructions to how to approach a speaking test become, again, even more important. So again, making sure that it's in an easy to understand, conversational tone, no shouting, no whispering, no moving the microphone, and we've seen this many times, and people get nervous through assessments where I'm going to do it now, where they might start tapping the microphone, and obviously you can probably hear from your end that doesn't make it easy to understand. But again, lots of integrated items, lots of items that are designed to keep people engaged in the assessment and not necessarily feeling as if they're taking a test. And then finally, we have section 3, which is our writing. And you can see here lots of open, extended writing items here. So left-hand side, look at the picture. You have 9 minutes to write about that picture. and you must write 25 to 50 words. So here it's asking them to express themselves. It's not asking for anything else. It's really asking them to express themselves within that. And it could be anything. They could focus on the man who's seems to be taking the load off his feet while the woman plays with the baby, or it could be about the time on the clock in the background. It could be really down to whatever they want to choose within that image to write about. So the reports, let's have a look at the reports here. So again, a few short minutes after you have completed the test, you're going to get this really rich report that really delves into the insights about students' abilities, how they can improve, and not just how they can improve, but then focusing on the activities that they should look at in order to improve. Again, similarly to the level test at the top here, we give an overview of their current capabilities. At the top, even further up, you can see that you have the name of the test, the name of the individual, when the test was assigned and taken, and the name of the institution. And this becomes really important again, because we're talking about lifelong learning. We ask test takers to create their own account within Test Hub. So actually, you can have test takers that are taking multiple tests over multiple institutions. And if allowed by their institution, will have an audit history of that within their record, within their account. And hopefully a little bit later on, if we have some time, we'll be able to quickly show you what that would look like. So we have the description of overall language ability. We have the breakdown of the overall score on the GSE. And then if we looked at further down, the graph is slightly different on this report, where you can see how the test, the average of the scores, how that coincides to the GSE. So you can see there the 36, but you can also then see where that sits within the Common European Framework. So you can see there that's around an A2 plus region. So you can really quickly see visually where that student is, where they may be excelling, and where they may need a little bit more focus moving into their next semester, next term, or next test. So here we have the breakdown of the skills themselves. We have our course mapping at the top, which I'll show you in a second, because I think actually showing you that in action is a lot better than seeing it on the screen here. But we have the breakdown of the scores and the detailed description of ability for each language skill. So it breaks down into a performance summary that gives you all those can-do statements. We then have our recommended and suggested learning objectives, which really help guide that future learning and future teaching. And that's where the courseware mapping comes into place. If I bear with me here, if I can bring this up. Okay. So I'm logging into Test Hub here. Hopefully, again, you can all see my screen. But what I want to quickly show you is one of our test results. This is really, really quick and easy to use. Let's look at a benchmark test. Let's look at something that is B1 and B2. And we also want to see that it's been scored. Our options then filter below, and we can quickly see a report. And as you can see, I have a report here for a test taker. And then if I come a little bit further down, you can see that I can then choose a course. And again, some of these may be familiar to you. So if we say, let's look at roadmap and let's look at B2+, you can then see that the recommended activities change. And you can then see the references within the book. So activity, the kind of area, and then the actual activities that develop your reading 2 to 6. And as we go down, that breaks down skill by skill. So you can see here that we've got multiple mappings to the speaking side of things to really allow a teacher or the test taker to focus in on their their remediation activities, and that can go to any of these books. So we can choose Speak Out, and you see here, I've obviously chosen an incorrect level. There's not much mapping to that one. Here we go. So if we choose upper intermediate, you can see now that those activities have become, there's a lot more. It's very rich, lots of activities on the speaking side. So you can see what unit, what level, and then what activities they need to be doing. So this may not look, if you're not used to the books, this may not make sense, but if you do have the books, what this does is references the exact activities within those particular books. So this becomes incredibly powerful. So let's go back to our presentation. Apologies, my system has frozen slightly. Here we go. So this is where we were. So in regards to the group report, you can see here that again, you'll have a group report. So if you have a class A, class B, whatever it may be, you can see all of the people that have taken a test within that group. Again, you can see an overall of capabilities within that. You can see an average of their scores broken down by skill. And then at the bottom of the page, that's when you start to see how that breaks down. So you can see all of your test takers in that group. You can see the level of the test that they took. You can see the scores that they achieved within that test, and then you get the link directly through to that report. So you can start here, you can look at your class, and if there's something that you see that you think you need to address quickly, you can dive straight into that individual test taker's report. So again, incredibly powerful from a group perspective, but then also being able to drill down to an individual's needs. So Test Hub, we had a little look at it there. And again, this is an incredibly powerful solution. This allows us to bring not just the teachers and the tests, but also the test takers together. So this is bringing them into the test taker experience. Previously, we would have just given them a slip of paper that had a URL that tells them, go here, take a test, and that's it. But we hear from the market that they want test takers to be more involved in their test taking, more involved in their take ownership over their remediation. So we can now do that with Test Hub. So it's a really powerful platform that allows educators to monitor their results, monitor the test taking sessions themselves in real time, but also to measure performance across groups, teaching programs, but across time, more importantly. So it's throughout the assessment journey. It's not just about one test and then they move on to another platform and take another test. All tests will be taken on this platform, and then they'll be able to see a history of that individual over time. And it's incredibly easy to use. The actual assigning a test is incredibly easy. Now, what you see here in front of you is an overview, but again, let's show you what that looks like in real time. So if I come over to here, you can see that I have an assigned test view. It's really simple. We want to assign some tests. We can do those in a few clicks. So we assign test, we have it to new test takers or existing test takers. We click existing takers. Sorry, new test takers. We choose a test. So it's either a level test, a 3 skills test, or a benchmark test. And then you can choose which level of benchmark test you want to assign. You have a start date. So if you wanted test takers to start their test next week, as opposed to getting that instantly, you could put that in here. And then you have a due date. So if we say that we want these tests to be taken by August 21st, we'll do that. And it's really simple. If you have 20 people that want to take a test, you took 20. If I click on next, I'm going to generate 20 tests for 20 individuals, but these are anonymized. Now, if we know who they are and we have their email addresses, then we can simply just copy and paste those email addresses into this box here, and then it will create invites for those test takers and email them off. Once we've chosen our test takers, you can then make a decision to release the scores to the test takers or not, or you can add them to a group. So here, we're saying no group. We may have an existing group that we want to add them to. So we might have a demo group, or we might want to create a new group. In that instance here, we could say class 3A, for example. Okay, and then we'd simply press next, and then those tests will be created. And it's as simple as that. That's the process of creating tests. And the test takers will then get tests sent to them into their email addresses. Then after that, the test taker themselves, if they get their email, they will have a code. They may have a code that's given to them. So if I scroll back here, if you haven't got an email address here, you will have these little printable slips that you can give them to hand. They would then enter their invite code. They would then be asked to create an account. And this is where this changes from the interaction we've had with test takers previously, because test takers weren't obliged to create accounts. Now, what we want to do is have them focus on their learning journey. So they create an account, they will be able to then launch their test or access sample tests from that. And actually, that's, if we can quickly again show you, if I log off of here, if I log out, and log in. You can then see here I have one test, and from here I can launch a sample test, and that launches directly in the page. So you can see here I have a test. Failing that, you can obviously go back and actually launch the test proper, and it's all launched within your account. So there's no jumping from web page to web page, downloading software. You literally log into your account and you can access your test and sample tests. And again, if you had multiple tests, level tests, benchmark tests, and even Pearson International Certificate, once that's released on Test Hub, you'll be able to see all of those tests on this page. So have a real audit history of all the tests that you have taken. Okay, so that is a real whistle-stop tour of level and benchmark. So I suppose it's going to be over to you now, really, for your questions.
Thanks, Darren. That was great. A really comprehensive deep dive into those new tests. So we've got some questions here. Let me have a look. So, well, I mean, there's a very basic question. If we could answer it in just in a couple of sentences, what exactly is the difference between level and benchmark?
It is a good question. Level is designed to be a shorter, sharper test that is aimed at streaming students. The feedback was from the market that the test needs to be cost effective. It needs to be quick to be able to make those decisions. So that's why we provide a shorter test. There is an option without speaking to make it even shorter, and it also allows us then to provide the test at a cheaper price point. And that's kind of delivered with the fact that we're not providing a granular score with that test. We are providing that CFR band. If you then want the more granular detail from the test, that's when you start looking at benchmark. So you have the granularity of the score, but also granularity of the output. So we start getting into the recommended activities, further into the GSE learning objectives and the courseware mapping. So that real focus on not just where you are, but where you need to go happens within benchmark.
Great. Somebody's asked a question about the characteristics of the hardware. What are the technical requirements for these tests?
Yeah, sure. It's not very kind of overly technical, to be honest with you. We have a set of minimum recommended specifications. It's pretty much just making sure that your browsers are up to date, that you've got a graphics card, but most institutions will have appropriate hardware to be able to take these tests in regards to the actual machine. What we do be quite explicit about is the headset themselves. Again, a very important part of this these kind of 4 skills test is the speaking part, and the AI that speaks that scores the speaking elements needs to obviously make sure that it has a clear recording of the audio. So we recommend that the test takers have a headset. I mean, you can't see the headset I'm using at the moment, but it's an overhead headset with a boom microphone that brings the microphone in front of your mouth to make sure that it captures the sound clearly. A lot of people think that they can take the test using a set of headphones that they may have got with their mobile phone, where they can plug it into their computer, and then they'll have a microphone on the lapel. The issue there is that can rub against clothing, it can pick up background noise, which may impact scoring. So we're very explicit when we come to the hardware requirements from a headset perspective. But any overhead headset with a boom microphone should be fine.
Great. Someone's asked a question here about in terms of the results. Are the individual results available to download, for example, to Excel, aside from Test Hub?
They're not at the moment, but it's on our roadmap of items that we will be developing in the coming months. So you don't have the ability to extract those off in Excel at the moment. You can obviously generate the PDF reports as you saw within the screen. So you can print off the screens that you see. But we are currently working on developing that kind of Excel/CSV export. So watch this space, but it's definitely coming.
Great. Someone's asked a question about if there's a blackout, how does that affect the test? So if somebody's in the middle of a test, yeah, what happens?
Yeah, of course. So if, as you saw within benchmarks, so there's 3 sections to a test. If there was a blackout that happened during, they would then be kind of pushed onto the next section of the test. So you wouldn't be able to pick up the test at the item that you're on, obviously, because you have to look at anti-gaming here, where potentially people could force shut the test themselves. They can go away, they can look something up, come back and take exactly the same item. We need to avoid that for the integrity of our own item bank. So what we then do is, if there is an issue that affects it, if there is a blackout, internet connection issue, then they can resume the test, but they wouldn't be able to resume and pick it up from the item that they were on.
Okay, thank you. And there's a few questions here about price and how people can access the test.
Yeah, price, I would say that is pretty much down to a conversation you would need to have with your regional sales reps. I think they can pick up that conversation with you, as that may differ region to region. But that's a conversation you'll have with your sales reps. Once that order has been placed with your sales rep, we would then create an account for you. You would be given your login details, and you'll have access to Test Hub, the platform that I showed you. You will then be able to assign tests right from the moment that account has been created.
Time for a couple more questions. Somebody's asked about if they're using a particular series of books from Pearson English, how do they work together with the benchmark test?
So I think it's a great question. As you saw from the demonstration, the very quick demo I showed where we're looking at a live report, we have mapped to a number of assessments. Let me see again if I can bring that up on the screen so you can see that. I'll just log out and do it. So that at the moment there is a select number of Pearson products that we map to. Obviously the main ones that have been requested by our geos. Quickly access a test here. So you can see here with our course name, we have business partner, cutting edge, focus, high note, North Star, roadmap, speak out, startup, top notch. All of our big titles are in there. This is a system, a part of our system that is very easily added to, amended. So we will continue to add to this list. We will continue to update this list if changes to books happen. So this allows us to be incredibly flexible when it comes to course mapping.
Brilliant. Is there a time limit to answer these tests? Yeah, and if test takers, there's another question that maybe fits alongside it. If test takers exceed the number of words, I think it was when you were talking about the writing aspect, are they penalised?
No, they won't be penalised, but I think it will just obviously be looking at the 50-word mark. So I think it's best that they obviously look at the advice within the items and try to follow that as closely as possible. Obviously, if they go 1 or 2 words over the 50-word limit, then they're not going to be penalised for that. No. Sorry, Sophia, remind me of the first part of that question.
It was the time limit.
Oh, yes, yeah. So all of our tests, as you saw when we were talking about level and benchmark, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and 45 minutes, that's because all of our items are timed, okay? And then that's obviously a very important part of making sure that we can get these scores out accurately and urging people to interact with those items. So the item types and the sections themselves are timed. It's very clear as you're working through the assessment, the amount of time that you have available to you. So the time limit should not be a surprise.
Brilliant. Okay, I think that's all we've got time for. Thank you very much, Darren, for your time and that really insightful and clear introduction to these powerful new tests. And thank you everyone for joining and taking part. You'll receive an email soon after this session, which will include a recording and a certificate. Please do check out the new level and benchmark tests on our website. And please also take a look at the rest of the assessment summer sessions programme. You can sign up for more, they're free, they're running all summer, every Tuesday. So I hope to see you at another one very soon, and we'll close it there. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.